late start due to power outage. Ladies and gentlemen, your program is on, and on today's edition of the program, we're going to talk politics. What can the disabled opposition do? We consider that the Cameroonian opposition is disabled. When you look at the power of the strength of the opposition in Cameroon from 1990s, when we had the multi-party politics, to today, the opposition somehow, especially the SDF, that has been the powerhouse of opposition, is weakened to the point some people say it's almost on the dying bed. We're going to look at that and other opposition parties. What can they do in the Cameroonian situation? That will be our focus today, and we have the following panelists. Professor Willibrod Zengwa, he is a political scientist, historian. Welcome to the program.
It's my pleasure to be here, Killian.
Yes, sir. We have Mr. Nkemle Denise. He is the National Communication Secretary of the SDF, Social Democratic Front Party. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, Killian. The pleasure is mine.
Yes, next to you is Stephen Ojong. Stephen Ojong is the publisher of the Media newspaper. Welcome to the program, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, to my left, extreme left, we have Eugene Fongwa, Media and Development Policy Analyst. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we're going to discuss the topic. I remind you, what can the disabled opposition do, given that it's supposed to be carrying out checks and balances, calling on government, as we know, to be accountable to the public. But before we go into the discussion proper, we're going to start off with our press review, what the newspapers said during the week, with Emanuela Vebney. Emanuela.
Politics dominated the media landscape the week ending. After losing much ground, SDF begins to pick up pieces, headlines The Horizon. To the Post, takeover of SDF leadership, Frundi challenges youth while insisting all elected party officials must fund the party. In the eye of the Guardian Post, Frundi verbally assaults Anglophone journalists during SDF NEC meeting in Yaoundé. He had reportedly hushed one of the journalists, then referred to the other as being ugly. Newswatch explains that in Cameroon, journalists can't breathe as obnoxious laws stifle press freedom. As Campton Incha's secret meeting sends warning signals on the Guardian Post, scheming for regional election escort hots up on the sun, especially as UNDP's position in political dispensation is maintained on the Star. Cameroon Tribune then presents the faces behind the regional election escort. The Anglophone crisis takes center stage at the UN Security Council meeting on Newswatch. The crisis is said to have dominated debates at UN Security meeting, according to the Guardian Post. Then Germany, Russia weigh in on the crisis on the Horizon newspaper, even as the paper questions to what end, given the atrocities that continue in the regions. Suspected Amber fighters invade palaces, kidnap chiefs, headlines The Guardian Post. To the Post, 3 Boya chiefs abducted, 1 confirmed dead. For killing traditional rulers, Anglophones curse separatists on municipal update. All this has given rise to xenophobia against Northwesterners as rights groups strike Boya chief over such xenophobia on The Guardian Post. PM Dion Gute, we cannot do anything without unity on the Chronicle Times. Then Chief Monja retracts, preaches love on municipal update. To the Voice Weekender, hate speech braggart Chief Monja simulates capitulation, delivers instructed apology. Musical Rights Corporation Sonacam gets new Anglophone boss on The Guardian Post. Atebazor is new Sonacam board chair on the Post. Atebazor then becomes first Anglophone Sonacam board chair on The Horizon. Let's now end our press review with this report on The Guardian Post, where Cameroon has been ranked second worst jailer of journalists in sub-Saharan Africa. The Committee to Protect Journalists has for the 3rd consecutive time ranked the country as such. 274 journalists are currently being jailed in Cameroon, according to the report, with 67% facing anti-state charges, 12% facing fake news charges, and 12% retaliation charges. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
Thank you very much, Emanuela. We had that kickoff on what the newspapers talked about. And our topic again, for a reminder, politics, what can a disabled opposition do? We actually think that the opposition in Cameroon, when you follow the development from the early 1990s with the advent of multi-party politics to today, the opposition, when it comes out, we cannot say it's vibrant. We're going to establish, gentlemen. First of all, we think that opposition is disabled in Cameroon. Some people even think that it's dying. Prof, you are a political scientist, historian. It fits very well for you to better situate us.
Well, I think it will be important for us to say what politics is. Summarily, it is coining policies to gain power and govern people. And when we talk politics, we should concentrate on three things. Politics itself, policy, and polity. That is a given geographic region. Now, if we put all of these into play, we are going to say that doing politics in Cameroon, most opposition political parties have not coined effective policies to gain power. They have rather coined some policies which are counterproductive, and then within the polity, the politics have made them disabled, I should say, especially with the former leading, which I still consider to be the leading opposition party. I mean the SDF. They have been disabled because of several factors, if you want. Disabled by the system, conscious effort to make sure that political parties are rolled back. But let me say that the ruling party might be exercising real politics because they are doing everything to gain power.
That is exactly what I wanted to ask you, whether they are not playing their role as a political party.
Yes, the CPDM is playing its role as a political party, but the other political parties might not be playing their role enough. Yeah. And that is why
we're going to go into the role. We'll go into the role after this, what the role of political party, especially opposition. But when you were speaking, you talked of the policies of the opposition parties in Cameroon have been counterproductive. What do you mean by that?
Yes, not all the political parties, because we let us talk about a few. CDU has remained very consistent, and they are dominant in their area within a polity. Their policies have been crafted within a polity. That is the known, and they are dominating within that area. UNDP has coined its own policy. Let's be very fair to say that all the political parties have regional orientation. I mean, they have their strongholds. Right, and if they have their strongholds,
you mean all opposition?
The opposition have the strongholds, all the opposition political parties, and one political party, leading political party, I should say, the SDF, has been able to divorce from the stronghold. They have loose power. They don't have a firm grip over the stronghold any longer because of the policies which have been, to the best of my appreciation, not been very sensitive to the sentiments of the greatest majority of those people within the polity.
Yes, we have Dennis Kemlemo, the National Communication Secretary of the SDF, that has been a leading political party, opposition of the opposition in the country. And as we know today, SDF has lost a lot of ground. We can't even say it has a fief anymore. What's happened to your party and to other opposition parties?
Well, when you talk of opposition, before I answer your question with your permission, when we talk of opposition, it is limiting to describe opposition only in terms of political parties. The opposition has to do with every person in the country who is not comfortable with the status quo, who is not comfortable with the way the country is managed, that you oppose the present system and the status quo. And in that sense, you will realize that if you have approximately 24 million Cameroonians and you have a potential of 15 million, or let's just break it down to 12 million, go down to 12 million potential kingmakers in Cameroon, that is those who are eligible to vote. And then you see that out of those 12 million, coming from the LECAM statistics, only 50% of those who are eligible to vote actually register in the electoral register. The other 50% are so disillusioned with the political system and the electoral system, they don't get in. And even among the 6 million that enrolled, you have approximately 3 million who actively come out and vote. And within that 3 million, the party that is ruling may have around 2 million. Then if you can see 2 million that vote for the status quo to continue, out of 24 million Cameroonians, out of 12 million potential kingmakers in Cameroon, then you will realize that there is no progress at all, because 2 million people decide the fate of Cameroon.
That actually is not the point. That's not the point.
Let me make the point. What is it not the point? I say,
the 2 million people
yes.
could still come out, as he said, if your party had good policies to win them over and vote for your party.
What I am saying is that the degree of disenchantment among the Cameroonian populace is so intensive that they have turned their back on those who manage politics. And so we cannot talk of opposition limiting it to political parties. Please, let me make this point, is extremely important. And I want to say that, having said that, if you had limited your question to institutionalized opposition, yes, because there is opposition in the general sense of the word, and then there is institutionalized opposition.
This is what the topic is.
Yes,
politics.
Yes.
What can a disabled opposition
do?
It means we are talking about opposition party.
No, it is not a given.
All the other people are not politicians.
Politics, we are not talking of politicians. Those who vote are not politicians. We are not talking of politicians. I wanted to make that point clear. Now, coming back to institutionalized politics, that is politics, political institutions like political parties that you are talking about. I said earlier, before we went into this studio, that this question was tendentious. And I explained. It is already accepted from the question that the opposition is disabled. Let us accept.
Is it not?
Let us accept.
Is it not?
Let us accept that it is disabled. Let us accept your thesis that it is disabled. The next question is disabled by who? And I think Professor Zengwa started on a very good way to explain some of the people who disabled the opposition. Let me tell you that you cannot imagine that the president of the republic in 1990, his hands were forced to give democracy, and then he gave the democracy and take it with the left hand, with one hand, and take it with the other.
Why didn't the opposition hold it?
I explain.
Opposition is not supposed to hold, and supposing who takes it back.
No, let me tell you, if you use the state power not to administer the state, but to stifle any other alternative voice in the country, you cannot call that doing politics. That is abuse of state power. Because administrative officers in the country, the civil service in the country, the military in the country, the police force, and all the state apparatus are at the service of the party in power. And
of the state.
No. I am telling you that at the service of the party in power. When the war...
You are a politician.
Yes.
You are a politician.
If you allow me to give details about what I'm saying.
Yes, you will continue with what you are saying, but we listen to you and we want you to make us understand clearly.
Yes.
You say all those institutions, they pay allegiance to the ruling. When a government comes up, that government controls. It is done everywhere. It is. If the SDF came up to power today, will you say those?
For your information, in the rules of the SDF will ban civil servants from doing partisan politics. That is because we will not want the politicization of the administration and the civil service. What
do you mean by that?
That means that a civil servant who joins a political party and wants to have ambitions to be elected, to run on the platform of a political party and campaign for that party and defend the ideology of that party, have to resign from the civil service first. That's what we mean by that. That is clear, written in golden letters in the SDF internal ideology. In order to run away from
Professor Zengwa talked about policies of opposition parties that have not appealed, that have not stood. Don't we think that it's because of such policies?
With all due respect to Prof, that I admire a lot for his objectivity and his neutrality. What I'm saying does not cancel that impression I have about him. I think that getting to power in Cameroon and living and remaining in power has nothing to do with ideology. The CPDM has no ideology apart from the fact that they enjoy the benefits of power. Their principal ideology, and people who adhere there, is to get the benefits of power. That is all. There is no ideology.
You could not say anything.
Ideology, because the Social Democratic Front, whose principal ideology is federalism. You will not tell me that Cameroonians hate federalism this much. You will not tell me that they hate social democracy this much.
Look at where we are.
Are you saying that?
As you said, there are other panelists. It's true that we're listening to you. The power to the people.
Yes.
Federalism is meant
power to the people.
Power to the people.
Yes.
Decentralization is power to the people in practice.
Wrong.
Okay, let us listen to
others. I'll come back to tell you the difference between federalism and the so-called decentralization. Wrong.
Stephen,
decentralization is not power to the people.
Stephen, you listen to the two panelists already. And
let's not try to give the impression that opposition in Cameroon is the SDF. There are so many opposition forces in Cameroon.
Exactly.
And if we talk about the SDF had long abandoned its platform for change. So when they say opposition is dead, maybe the SDF is dead, not opposition in Cameroon. The opposition in Cameroon is still very vibrant.
Vibrant?
Yeah, let me come. I can tell you that the government is very panicky whenever Council comes up to say something. The government is panicky. You recall that recently, ahead of the last regional elections, the military arsenal that the government put out, I had to avail myself to some of the security officials. I asked them, but Kamto doesn't carry guns. His followers do not carry guns. All these guns that we find out, excuse me, why are you putting out all of this? They say we are putting out all of this because our problem is not Kamto. Our problem is the people who line up behind him if we allow him to come out.
Now, you continue. I'm not going to stop you from talking. But this is what I want to ask you.
Yes.
Do you know that for guns to come out, for people to carry guns, they are conceived on the mind. They are conceived, and the type of verbs, the type of words that you use could be an initiation or a call for guns to come out. And that actually appears to be openly some of the position
our team for this discussion is disabled.
Yes, opposition.
I'm saying that the opposition is not disabled in Cameroon. The opposition in Cameroon is very, very vibrant and very active, and the government is very aware of that. And the government is very panicky and very, how do I put it? The government is always poised to block whatever the opposition wants to do in Cameroon.
Yeah, I stay with you, Stephen. For us to say that the opposition is vibrant, we have to look at representation in national institutions.
Yes.
Go to Parliament. Go to the Senate. Parliament is the National Assembly and the Senate. Go to some other, when you look at now regional councils, when you look at representation, where is the opposition in terms of representation for you to say that?
I'm a journalist. In this country, the President of the Republic was voted by less than 2 million Cameroonians.
They could vote for opposition.
Excuse me.
They could vote for somebody from the opposition.
We had elections in Ghana that just passed. We had 17 million voters. The president of this country was voted by less than 3 million Cameroonians. You cannot claim that party is very popular because it has the claims to have representation all over the country.
The question I'm asking is, those people could still vote for.
If the opposition is dead, then even the government party is dead. I want to tell you that in this country, even the opposition starts from within the government. We saw the prime minister of this country go to the northwest and southwest and say that they want to do this. A minister of that same government came to Cameroon, to Yaoundé, granted a press conference, interview to a foreign channel and said that what the minister is saying, the prime minister is saying is not correct. We saw a former prime minister who went to Bamenda to solve the Anglophone problem. 4 ministers held a press conference in Yaoundé to say that the problem that the Prime Minister has gone to solve in Bamenda does not exist.
Is there a house
is
there a house without problem, without squabble? Is there one house in the world where you don't have squabble? That doesn't make it.
No, we are
bad
saying
for the
that
party.
I've been saying here that the opposition is very, starting from the government itself, there's opposition.
Yes,
opposition is very vibrant in Cameroon,
which is just normal that they should do that to reorganize themselves, divergent of ideas. We're going to listen to you, Eugene. The opposition in Cameroon, we feel, is disabled. He has talked of some policies that are not tending. It's talked of actually opposition that is vibrant. But when we come to representation, so the ideas are not converging. So what's your take?
I think it's difficult to tell whether the opposition is dead or not, because, look, there really isn't any fair measure that you can use to determine.
I talked about institutions,
representation. Just let me speak.
Okay.
I've not even said anything yet. There's no fair measure you can use, because, like he has pointed out, the elections are flawed in some cases, or a very small number of Cameroonians are voting. To be able to say that the opposition is dead, you need to say that the 10, 15 million or so who do not vote would have voted for the ruling party. I'm not sure you can reach that conclusion. That's number one.
In politics, we're going to continue. In politics, it's said by staying silent, you have taken position. Because the few people who vote, the person voted, is voted for all of them.
Yes. If you consider, and I'm going to hold you by what you have just said, if you consider that abstention is a political statement, you could then say that the election during which the current president was re-elected was actually a no vote, in that 8 million to 10 million people or to 12 million people decided not to have the opportunity to elect him. They were so disgruntled that they would rather not participate in legitimizing his presidency, and only 2 million came out to vote for him. Again,
71.
I'm going to go back.
71. He scored 71%.
This is not my argument.
So it's 1% of 2 million.
No,
not 71% of 24 million. Of 2 million.
What I have just done is,
if they voted for your chairman, will you have said no? Okay, let's continue.
What I've done is just expounded on your logic.
Yeah.
But this is my logic. My position is that it's difficult to know. One, because the elections are not credible. You cannot tell me that the people who are in parliament today are there because they're better politicians than those that are not there. It's difficult to tell because of representation, not in the institutions, but on the political field. Number two, we have this problem that has already been raised, the idea that so many people are not interested in politics, in partisan politics at all. You cannot make a causality relationship to say that that means that the opposition is
disabled.
Is disabled. Number three, the point that we're trying to deny, and I'm surprised we're trying to deny, is the idea that the state machinery is been captured by the ruling party. And there are people who do certain things and take certain decisions in spite of themselves.
Yeah, that brings me to a question that I will start by you. What's the role of the opposition? If we get the role of the opposition correct, we will know that the state machinery is not supposed to take...
the opposition, listen.
The role of the opposition.
He has a definition of politics which I may slightly depart from, which makes the capture of power central to the political goal. But you could actually have in a situation where there's a political ambition which is just to steer the debate in a certain direction, just to ensure that there's a mitigation of all of the political forces in the country. So sometimes a vibrant political party can only be one that keeps certain issues on the policy debate, one that forces the country to move in a certain direction, and they may never gain power, but succeed in moving the country in a certain direction.
Well, but as you said, the ultimate aim of every political party is to get to power, not only get there, but maintain it.
I'm talking about power. I understand what he's saying. I'm talking about power in terms of an office, all right? Good. So they may, yes, they may have that power to be able to drive the country in a certain direction, which we have seen happened in this country. So you can really not discard that. 80% of the democratic reforms in this country have been pushed by the opposition. You cannot deny them that. You cannot deny them that. So let's not make it look like this is a black and white question where you can, it's a question of dead or alive. It's very nuanced, and again, we don't have the ability to...
The term we have used actually is disabled, which means that before now, we used to see the opposition come up, like you're saying, push some policies that have been implemented that have changed so many things. The way it's going now, in terms of representation, we had the SDF, for example, we have the NUDP in parliament. They were almost at par.
I think that your criteria is flawed, because you don't seem to be listening to what we're saying. We're saying that that criteria itself is flawed, because if you look at representation in offices, in elected offices, you need to also accept that the process that leads to that representation is not flawed. If that process is flawed, you cannot use representation to measure the...
We have to use it, flawed or not. There are irregularities in getting to the destination. Prof, you are a political scientist. You're reading of what he's saying.
Yeah, I think all of what we are saying here, to me, is very important. But I have a small worry. I think we want to inform, to share with our viewers what is actually happening in the country at now. Yeah, the opposition, to call them alternative political parties, have been able to influence power positioning, influence politics in the country. I think I understood your question to be those political parties have been disabled. I think I totally agree that the political parties have been disabled from two fronts. Disabled by the system, which is very clear, making sure that elections, fake elections, permit me say that elections, semblance of elections take place. Let's consider the elections that took place in the Northwest and Southwest regions, where we had no electors to vote, and that gave overwhelming victory to the ruling party. Those were not elections.
Disabled so also by their inability.
I'm coming. I wanted to look at it from that standpoint.
Yeah.
So the government. That's why I said that the government of the day, the CPDM political party, is doing everything to gain power. The coin strategies.
Is that not a legitimate?
It is legitimate. I'm coming. And then we move on to the internal wranglings, not proper political strategies by some of the political parties. I will come again to insist on the SDF, not because we have a stone to throw at the SDF, because we should be very set. I talked about polity. All the political parties, the UNDP it has a base, which is in the extreme north region. The CDU has a base, which is in the North Division. The UPC has its base, which is in the Senegal Maritime. The SDF has its base, which is in the Northwest and Southwest regions. We are not saying that they are not found elsewhere. Poor strategic thinking made the SDF to concur to go in for elections when they understood very clearly that their population were at war, that the greatest majority of the electorate had been displaced, that the villages of people who supported that party had been burnt, and public statements. You cannot be going for elections. Even those who were displaced and found all over, call them IDPs today, they did not move with it. They could not vote where they were. There were not particular concerns within the political party. The SDF did not insist that wherever their militants were, they should be given the opportunity to vote. So, lack of political thinking or strategic thinking within policies. And this has caused a situation of disability. I am very convinced that we all know that in the next days ahead, we are not going to have senators from the Northwest and Southwest regions. We have to start from scratch.
Okay.
So, but we are not saying that if everything was put on a level playing ground, we still think that the opposition political parties have totally been disabled. They have been disabled to a certain degree, but they can bounce back if hierarchy within the political parties starts
you talk of bouncing back.
Thinking. I insist on strategic thinking. They should be very sensitive to the sentiments of the people whom they are called upon to represent.
Yes, Eugene, you speak, Prof has just talked about the possibility of the SDF bouncing back, and obviously the possibility of the other political parties that have been disabled in Cameroon bouncing back. We spoke with a political scientist, Dr. allengagedcitizens, who proposes what the SDF can do to reconquer power, and by extension, what other political parties can do to come back. Let's listen to him.
The SDF, which stands for the Social Democratic Front, was created on May 26, 1990, in order to be able to, demonopolize the political role enjoyed by the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement at the time. And it marked the moment of multipartyism in this country. The SDF has sailed all along from 1990 till of late to be an influential and second political force in this country. But of late, we are going to discover that with, manifestations politically that can be described, the SDF has consistently dropped to oblivion. What are the reasons responsible for this? And how can the SDF be able to rejuvenate itself and reconquer the political terrain on which he enjoyed some time ago? We can say that if the SDF wants to be able to reconquer the political space, if she reconsiders her political strategies to re-win electoral districts lost, it will be another first major move. Politically speaking, the SDF has lost completely grounds, especially in her political fief that used to be the northwest region of Cameroon, especially with the advent of the secessionist politics and manifestation. Secondly, if she participates in efforts to convince those dissident fighters who are secessionists to become more Republican, and the SDF being a political movement and enterprise will need a peaceful and a stable environment in order to be able to prevail. If she, can be able to reconvene another major, SDF convention, which will include, international as well as local, SDF militants and stakeholders, so that, in fact, her manifesto be reconsidered. Today, we are talking of the fact that regionalism has conquered. And as of the last seat of November elections, where regional elections were organized, we are going to discover that, in fact, it is a spirit of decentralization in a unitary state that is promoted by the Cameroon People's Democratic Party that is gaining ground. It goes without saying. If she can also consistently participate in all elections organized by Elections Cameroon, so as to be, politically alive in Cameroon. Because a political party is an association of individuals created in order to win elections and maintain power for as long as possible. When you are a political party that do not go for elections, how do you think, how do you imagine, how do you wish to be able to win power and maintain it for as long as you wish? She may dissolve itself to resurface anew as a new political force or movement. It is possible. Yeah, it could be another strategy. Or if not, she may get into a political alliance to set up a new political path to re-emerge or bounce back.
Yes, we'll all listen to Dr. allengagedcitizens. Your party has been challenged there.
Yes, Killian, and I really regret the type of intellectuals or political analysts we have in this country. And unfortunately, he is not the only one. I have a certain Professor Joel Mayolo, and this interview was taken on the same day that this house took my interview and told me that they were to air it on 7:30 News on last Thursday, but they didn't air it. The French version of the news aired my interview was less than 10 seconds. They just made a statement that I may cut everything out of context and then gave a lot of time to the so-called political analysts who come with big titles, professor, politolog, to talk a lot about SDF that they don't know. I want to take the first example from...
We are talking about what he
yes,
said.
No. This,
what he said. You are talking about something else.
I am. It is not something else. Okay. How do
Let's
you imagine?
On what
how
he
do
said.
you imagine? I'm coming to him. How do you imagine that Professor Joel Meyolo's list that Bernard Muna, may he so rest in peace, Pierre Kwemo, Elimbi Lobe, and Kawala were dismissed from the SDF with A2. This is pure lies, and it's a politician saying that.
That's not what
and
we're
he was
about.
using that. Listen. He was using that to say why SDF disabled. It is within this. Then the young man there, or whether it's a young man or Dr. Derek Lange, comes and says that the SDF should adopt the ideology, in quotes, of the CPDM by embracing regionalism, because to him, regionalism is the one that is invoked, seeing the performance of the CPDM in the election show that Cameroon have embraced regionalism. SDF should change its ideology, saying that SDF should drop the issue of powers to the people and even reconfigure its name and change it to a different political party.
He justifies
on what?
On the fact that decentralization is actually
has
giving
been bought by
power,
Cameroonians.
power to the people.
And I disagree. There is a difference between federalism and decongestion. Decentralization, from the name decentralized, comes from centralization. Power centralized in Yaoundé, and then a bit of that parcel of power is decentralized. Meanwhile, federalism is power from bottom top based. That is to say, the majority of powers lies within the base. Only things of sovereignty are handled at the top. So you cannot say
a policy.
So you cannot say, please. Clearly, I have discovered that whether your questions, your incessant questions, are meant to destabilize the discourse of somebody here on this table.
To relaunch you.
No, you are not relaunching me, because when I take over the floor, is more of an argument between us than making the point for which I brought it here.
That's what I
but
do
which is not fair. He himself even wondered about that.
No, we cannot just religiously listen to you.
No, I'm not saying you should religiously listen to me. I'm saying that at least you should listen to me, make a point before you react. Because I'm in the middle of making a point, you stop and then destabilize, or you want to disable me as the CRTV.
Continue, but stay within the topic.
What I am saying is that what that doctor, who calls himself a political...
he doesn't call. Why do you...
because his reasoning has nothing to do with what a political analyst should say. Which is not because he is a CPDM sympathizer that he feels that we have to dissolve our party, reform.
You are talking about people. We want to talk about issues. The issues he raised.
The issues he raised, I say there are four. I say one. You cannot, on the results of the regional elections that heard, and the municipal elections that heard in this country, to say that Cameroonians have bought the idea of decentralization massively, and that's why they are voting the CPDM. I think we have made this clear to all the viewers on this program, that the yardstick for popularity of policy cannot be on elections in this country, because the elections are seriously flawed.
And when you stay away from elections.
Do you know, let me give a concrete example. Do you imagine that in the BLM, where I was candidate for, because they are using the legislative elections as a yardstick, that in the BLM, where I was candidate for on the platform of the SDF for regional legislative elections, out of 21,000 registered voters in the whole division, only 700 voted. And out of those 700 that voted, close to 500 were military people on intervention from the far north, from Bavsam, from Douala, and those are local elections. Military people come from elsewhere to vote
do you understand that?
And then on the basis of that, we measure the popularity of the BLM.
Your passion doesn't help the debate. Your passion doesn't help the debate. Let us.
Is it passion? Are these not facts?
But you are drifting from the topic. What we are saying is, he raised some points there. You listen to him. Cameroonians and so many other people around the world listen to him.
Yes.
There are people who believe in what he is saying. If you disagree, please.
Yes.
Please, if you disagree,
yes.
Treat him with respect. Because there are people who agree with what he is saying.
If he respected us, he will not. He didn't handle us with respect.
It is said that when you see somebody getting too annoyed, it's because the person is touched.
I have given facts to contradict what he said.
He has taught you. That's why you are.
No, the facts are there. And a political scientist and a doctor,
we are going to
a doctor of philosophy is not aware of these things.
Rapidly, let's look at the role. I asked you the question. The role of the opposition. We know accountability. We know it has to in institutions, checks and balances. Can the opposition that we have in Cameroon consider disabled as we know? What is the role first? If we know the role, can it play?
Yeah, maybe you want me to insist and maintain that the opposition in Cameroon is not disabled. The opposition is still very active. And the opposition has been playing its role, even though the government has been using every means possible to block the opposition from coming out. The opposition has been playing its role. You recall with me that when we had the COVID-19 pandemic in this country, in every other country, the heads of states came out and addressed their populations. In Cameroon, it never happened.
No, that's another thing altogether. Well, let's stay within the topic.
I'm coming now. I want to demonstrate how the opposition pushes the government to act in Cameroon.
Okay.
We saw in Cameroon how a political party kept saying that in this country, the President of the Republic has not addressed the population on this very serious issue. He kept banging his hand on the table until the President came out and addressed the nation on COVID-19. That shows that the opposition in Cameroon still exists.
Well,
about the SDF, and I don't want us to give the impression here that when we talk opposition in Cameroon is the SDF.
No, exactly.
The SDF has long died. The SDF had a platform for democratic change in Cameroon.
So no,
excuse me, the SDF came with slogans like power to the people, equal opportunities. That easily won the hearts of Cameroonians. Cameroonians had hope that with the SDF, they will finally capture power from the people who are up there who have confiscated power and are using it only for their own, for their personal gains. And Cameroonians thought that with chairman
we have just 2 minutes to go to the end of the program.
Yes.
I don't know why whenever you come to me, you give me 1 or 2 minutes.
No.
When you go to others.
No, well, I'm saying the time is out.
If you don't want us to come and talk, you don't invite us.
Okay, you conclude, please. We have about 1.5 minutes to go to the end of the program.
I am saying that in this country today, there's a party that animates the opposition in Cameroon. We cannot be talking the opposition here. We are talking SDF that was long dead.
Okay.
If you go to the parliament, the SDF is not represented.
We have
Why are you not talking MRC here?
Which is represented in parliament.
That puts panic.
MRC, which is represented in parliament. Why don't we talk about
Eugene, your last word.
If you want to rehabilitate the SDF, tell us that you want to rehabilitate the SDF.
I think that without an opposition, we wouldn't be able to move forward as a country. I think what we need to get to is a point where we know that we can disagree on issues, but we all have the same interest to build a strong country where people live in freedom and can fulfill their aspirations. The problem we've had is that we have understood political party politics as a trade-off of opportunities and benefits, and so each time, and even the very conceptualization of opposition itself is problematic.
Okay. Prof, your last word.
Yeah, my last word, I think take strong reservations with Mr. Kelemo Denis's position against what he calls intellectuals, professors and all of that. He should consider them as human beings, as politicians, and not tied to the title of professors, because we have the common tendencies of raining down on whosoever called professors to make nonsense of them. If they are within the same political game, they should look at themselves as politicians and not the title, because to me, an intellectual is someone who has acquired knowledge and uses the knowledge at the service of the people without discrimination. Now, I want to say that following your debate, I think it is very clear that the opposition in Cameroon has been disabled. Okay. They are not very vibrant, but that the SDF is not dead. They have been disabled, and they will have no senators in the nearest future. They will not be represented where they are supposed to be represented, but they can bounce back if they change their strategies of being very sensitive to the plight of their polity.
Thank you very much. That was Professor Willie Broad Zengwa, Eugene Fongwa, Stephen Ojong, Dennis Kamlemo. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. I want also to thank you who watch us from around the world for being there for us. This program will be rebroadcast on Monday by 3 p.m. And you can watch it at your convenience on CRTV Web, Facebook. Thanks for being there for us.
It was how many minutes?